No man is an island, unless you're Sir Richard Branson, of course. This rock star of the entrepreneurial world has his own private paradise, Necker Island, in the Caribbean. Sir Richard bought it back in the late 1970s. All these years later, he still calls it home. The island has been a tropical touchstone for him on his journey to the top. However, it came with many challenges. How did he wind up purchasing the land at a bargain rate? What troubles has he faced since taking it on? It's been a bumpy ride, that's for sure. Let's find out what happened in this story of triumph over adversity. Did Branson set out to buy his own private island? Well, not really by the sounds of it. The whole deal kind of landed in his lap. He admits that until someone told him the area was on the market, he hadn't even heard of the British Virgin Islands. Having Virgin in the name meant that the territory was a natural choice for the bearded wonder. So he decided to check it out with his own eyes. The Caribbean trip offered double the fun for Branson. How so? Because the islands weren't just an investment. They also presented a unique and romantic opportunity. There was a girl he liked called Joan. He liked her a lot. And what would make the perfect relationship icebreaker? A trip to check out the British Virgin Islands, of course. Sir Richard made it a condition that Joan joined him on the flight. Talk about earning some brownie points. When they arrived, a beautiful hilltop view captured Branson's heart. He fell in love immediately. He wanted the island and he wanted it now. Not to mention his beautiful female companion. Definitely the behaviour of a big shot. Yet in terms of his personal fortune, Sir Richard wasn't enough of a heavy hitter to afford the idyllic location. The asking price for Necker was a cool $6 million. Branson made a decidedly lowball offer, $100,000. The seller might have accepted that for half a palm tree. The entire 74-acre island, on the other hand, you're having a laugh, Rich. Needless to say, the offer was rejected. Branson's dreams of using the island as a bolt hole for Virgin Records' world-famous musicians went under. So he returned to his famous houseboat, little suspecting that the island would ever come calling again. Fast forward a few years and a friend informed him that Necker Island was still up for grabs. This time at a knockdown price. So Sir Richard made his move, sealing the deal for $180,000. Finally, the place was his. Or was it? You see, a pre-knighthood Richard Branson wasn't the sort of person who typically bought private islands, at least in the eyes of the authorities. He was viewed with suspicion at first, possibly due to his long hair, or maybe the fact that it was because he was a relatively young man under the age of 30. The official government paperwork summed it up in 2 words: alien landholder. His background in the media was also a no-no. As the man himself explained via the Virgin website, quote, "The local governor didn't like my links with the music world and judged me to be an unsuitable investor." Luckily for Branson, there was a ray of light. However, it was also a double-edged sword. What do I mean? Well, Sir Richard was given the go-ahead, but the government had one request. He had to build a resort first, within 4 years. If he failed this mighty challenge, he would be cast out of Necker Island, never to return. Was Mr. Branson up to the task? What do you think? Of course he was. It took him only 3 years in the end, well under the deadline. However, this wasn't a quick job. Even someone with Sir Richard's resources was fighting against the trend. Bear in mind, the island was uninhabited before he started work. Now, Necker Island was first talked about in the 17th century, long before Branson was born, in 1950. And it wouldn't be until the 20th century that anyone went there properly, or at least lived to tell the tale. A journalist and a photographer were sent to explore the island in the mid-1960s, but they only lasted a couple of weeks. Apparently, the constant insect attacks just became too much for them. Necker Island not only has angry insects, but also snakes, scorpions, and plenty of other nasties from the animal kingdom. Branson may well have been stung during this time, especially in the bank balance. His contractually obligated resort didn't come cheap. It cost $10 million to finish. He certainly took a financial hit, but we think you'll agree the results were well worth the effort. His crew constructed a 10-bedroom hardwood stone villa called the Guest House. The style of the structure is Balinese, and it includes authentic bamboo furniture and artwork. It's also situated on top of a hill. Presumably, Sir Richard wants his guests to have that same sense of inspiration that he had when he first saw the island himself that day in the 70s. The estimated value of the resort today is $100 million, but you don't have to splash out the full amount. You can stay at the resort for approximately $50,000 a day. There are 2 private beaches together with activities such as swimming and tennis, plus a personal chef is on hand in case you fancy a fried scorpion or any other delicacies. That's a joke, by the way. We do not eat scorpions. They'll give you far more than just heartburn. Building Necker Island has been a huge achievement for someone who probably doubted themselves along the way, not only during this project but through life in general. You see, Richard's childhood dyslexia in those days was seen as an obstacle to success. The head teacher or principal at his school reportedly saw 2 career options for the young Branson. One was fame and fortune, the other was a life behind bars. Thankfully, he picked option 1 and made his millions, then his billions, all thanks to the Virgin brand. And you've got to wonder whether that teacher read the headlines about his former pupil buying a private island and spat out his tea in surprise. I certainly hope so. As for life on the island, Branson seems to spend about half of every year in the lush virgin paradise. But is it really a paradise? In some ways it is, sure, but in other ways, the island has caused serious financial headaches for Sir Richard. Take, for example, the 2011 fire that engulfed the villa apparently as a result of lightning strikes from Tropical Storm Irene. Thankfully, although the house holds 40 people, only 20 were in residence at the time. The dramatic incident made headlines around the world, partly because of the fact that Titanic star Kate Winslet was staying at the time. Richard was also there, as too were his mother and daughter, all of whom were staying at the Great House. Ultimately, no one was injured, but the fire must have been a shock. Then, 6 years later, Hurricane Irma tore through the British Virgin Islands. Sir Richard rode out the chaos with his staff, bunkering down in the wine cellar. Cheers! And then, a little situation called the coronavirus pandemic took its toll on the island shortly after. You see, when Branson's virgin businesses were affected by the pandemic, he offered Necker Island as collateral. In April of that year, he apparently suggested the idea of taking out a loan against Necker in order to save jobs at his company. But as far as we're aware from public documentation, that deal never took place. Sir Richard probably wants to hang on to his private island, and who can blame him? Though the clock may be ticking. Maybe the natural world rather than the business one will cause him to give up his slice of heaven. That might explain why Marlon Brando went to such lengths to create his own eco-island. If you haven't seen that video, I'll leave it on screen for you to check out next. Oh, and in case you're wondering, Joan was suitably impressed with her tour of the island back in the day. The couple went on to get married there in 1989, and marriage is certainly a thing that Marlon Brando knows a thing or two about. Check out his private island next.